Hey folks, this is Abel James, and thanks so much for joining us on Fat Burning Man, where we talk about real food and real results. We're here today with Ryan Hurst, who's joining us all the way from Japan. Isn't technology cool? I think it's the coolest thing. Thanks to our mutual friend Steve Kam at Nerd Fitness for hooking us up. Steve is awesome if you haven't checked him out. He's been on the show a couple of times now, so look up Nerd Fitness or Steve Kam. But this show with Ryan is like a clinic on how to move. If you want to be stronger, faster, and more energetic, this episode is definitely for you. Now, here's a quick update from our community before we get to the show. When I first overhauled my nutrition plan with a primitive version of what became the wild diet, I dropped around 20 pounds of flab in just more than a month. Now we hold 30-day challenges for all of you in our community, and here's what Jen has to say about it. Just want to say, Abel and Allison, that both me and my partner have completely flipped our lifestyle and in no way look at this as a fad or a quick fix. Some of the incredible benefits I've personally received include clarity, energy is through the roof, saving on groceries, ran sprints for the first time in 20 years. That's awesome. Skin looks great, hair looks amazing, down 6 pounds, and my clothes are getting looser. She says, you know, life is about being joyful and thriving, not fretting about not being healthy. This past year, I hit a personal milestone with loving myself unconditionally, and that is what brought me in direct contact with this amazing tribe. When I love myself, I make my health a priority. From my family to yours, thank you, Jen. Jen, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's incredible and fantastic progress. And I love how you highlight the lifestyle benefits of eating and living this way. It's not about weight loss. That, for a lot of people, is just kind of the hook that convinces them to get through the door. Or, you know, in a more traumatic case, some people come down and get really sick, or they're on a lot of prescription medications and they want to help heal themselves with food. So eating well improves the quality of your life really across the board. The weight loss, I like to say, is a side effect of the health that you're creating from the inside out. So it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story. So if you're listening and you want to start living and eating wild, right now you can join us by getting 30 days of wild meal plans for free when you try our program. All you have to do to get the deal is from any device, visit fatburningman.com/30 days. That's the number 30 DAYS. fatburningman.com/30 days, and you'll get the whole 30-day program with the new wild meal plans for a discount. All right, so on to the show with Ryan Hurst. This is a fun one coming to us all the way from Japan. You're about to learn the difference between beating yourself up in the gym and actually building skills, how to build true functional strength, what it's like to eat healthy in Japan, and much more. All right, let's go hang out with Ryan. All right, folks, Ryan Hurst is a certified bad mofo with black belts in Kendo, Judo, and Kempo. He practiced for 10 years as a competitive gymnast. When he's not slaying dragons, Ryan is a strength and movement coach who teaches people how to move their bodies better. He's coming to us all the way from Japan, where it's night here, it's morning for you. So good morning, Ryan. Thanks for joining us, man.
Good morning. The heck of an intro you gave me there. I appreciate that. That's pretty good, man.
Of course, slaying dragons. There's nothing wrong with that.
I love it.
I've been checking out your stuff. I totally love it. Our mutual friend Steve Kam of Nerd Fitness introduced us. He's got a book coming out. That's awesome too. Lots of exciting stuff going on. But let's start with something that I really like about what you do, where you basically talk about people who work out blindly, but there's a huge difference between beating yourself up in the gym and actually building skills. So can you just talk about that a little bit to get us started off?
Yeah, sure. So first off, let's take a look quickly about what we're talking about when we're talking about skills. And so, you know, a lot of people might come to our page, GMB Fitness, and see some of these tricks that I'm doing and think, oh man, there's no way I could do that. But, you know, we're really not necessarily about those tricks, those kind of skills. It's more about having a better awareness of your body. And so we're really into this physical autonomy where you can really, like I said before, become aware with your body, know what's going on, and then start to build that base from there to work towards a particular skill that you want in order to get better at doing the stuff that you want. So we're not about working out in order to become better at working out. We're looking at being able to use some of these skills that I present to be able to help you to be able to do like I said, whatever you want to do, maybe stand up, paddleboard, snowboarding, running, whatever it is, we want you to have a better comfort level within your body. And so really what we're looking at is for us, it's about strength, it's about flexibility, and it's about control. And so we're looking at trying to build this agility and this physical control. So what that means is better athletic movement, the capability and capacity to be able to just use your body better. And so when we talk about skills, it's more about, can you do this particular movement in a way that's more efficient? And so whether that be starting at the very, very beginning and learning, again, how to go deeper into a squat, seeing maybe, what's going on with that so you can improve your flexibility. Because sometimes it might not just be this thing of having a lack of strength. It could be flexibility that's actually holding you back from being able to do the thing that you want to do. So that's really what we're about when we're talking about skills. And of course, there are things that we do working towards, the backflip or, something on the gymnastic rings that looks cool. That's a good party trick.
Yeah, totally. The backflip, how hard is that to do?
The backflip. Oh man, I tell you what, like I said, if you have that base down, you get it, no problem. It's really not that tough. A lot of people look at that like, woo, but it's like anything, building up to it, being smart with it, and then it's just a matter of actually going for it.
Yeah.
So,
I remember one of the first times I ever tried to do that, I was just a little kid. I was on a trampoline, and I came back down, and my legs buckled, and I kneed myself right in the nose. Yeah, that's probably something you don't want to do at this age. So when you're a little kid, my kids, they do some crazy stuff, and I'm always like, oh wow, oh, but they just
right,
bounce. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't really bounce anymore.
No, not so much. So you talked about strength versus flexibility. And I think that, especially when you talk about the gym rat culture or whatever, people are all about building muscle and getting huge and getting strong. But that's just one tiny little piece of it, right? And in fact, you can have too much strength, which leads to imbalance. So can you talk about the other side of all this?
Absolutely. And you just bring up a very good point. It's about that balance. And so moving back to this awareness, and we can get so focused on something that we think that we need, whether it be that strength or getting huge, which is not a bad thing, because my feeling on it is you do what you want, and as long as you enjoy what you're doing, it's okay. But the problem that we see is that a lot of people who get so focused, they lose sight of some of the other things that are really necessary in order to help them get better at that thing that they want to get better at. So looking at strength, and we can go back to the squat, because this is actually a really good example. I mean, let's be honest, everybody wants to improve their numbers on their barbell squat, if that's what you're into. And how can you do that? Well, you just got to throw more weight on there and, progressive loading and everything. Yeah, that's one way. But the thing is if we take a step back and really look at our flexibility, how are your hip flexors? Do you have the proper ankle flexibility in order to put you into the proper position to be able to load more weight on there so that you are progressing? And so a lot of people might look at flexibility work and they know that they need it, but they don't really know exactly how to get there. That's what we're big. We're really big on assessing where you are, and so that's why we have these little protocols, these assessments that we use on a daily basis. Because it's not just a matter of every single day adding just a little bit of weight to the bar, because you do have those days where it just ain't happening, and so you do have to understand, is this going to be a day that's going to be a good one for me? Or is it one of those days where I might need to back off slightly, work on my flexibility or work on my control for that day, so that the next time that I get under the bar, I'm able to push more weight or do whatever I want to do. So that's kind of just finding that balance, really.
Yeah. So where's you take someone who might have been working out not in your tutelage before, and they might have some strength or whatever, they're fairly athletic. Where is the weak point usually?
Well, and that's just the thing. And it's interesting because each person can be different. And so, everybody has their own body. So you always that's why we have these assessments. And so that's why we do look at strength. We do look at the flexibility. We do look at the control. But generally, if we're looking at guys, us,
Mm-hmm.
It's a flexibility issue.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be actually in places that you don't think. So like I mentioned before, if we just look at the basic squat, yes, the big places are going to be the hip flexors and possibly the ankle, but it could,
Mm-hmm.
the lower back, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Especially recently sitting in front of a computer all the time, kind of hunched over, getting tight with that. Being here in Japan, I went to university over here, I guess in the United States State College, but went to uni over here. And when I walked in for my first day where I was living,
Mm-hmm.
the toilets there were just a hole in the ground.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, I had to learn how to squat deep
Yeah.
and do this on a daily basis right when I woke up in the morning.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at is that, unfortunately nowadays, a lot of people are so set in sitting in chairs
Mm-hmm.
and not sitting in particular positions. I don't want to say that we should be, but that was a norm for people way back when, that we've lost some of this movement ability. And so now, people who are going to the gym, who want to get better at things, are unfortunately finding that
Mm-hmm.
it's not just strength, it's that flexibility issue. And of course, the motor control that I'm talking about as well, because this is something that's really overlooked is, do you have control over your body
Mm-hmm.
for when things happen? So like, just going and doing this barbell squat, it's great if you're training it. It will make you strong. But what happens when you go outside of that
Right.
movement zone?
Mm-hmm.
That's usually when people get injured.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily when they're focused on just going forward, backwards, side to side. It's when things are changing and they're going from one position to another.
Right.
I picked up that box of tissues and threw my back out. I can't believe it. Well, it probably wasn't because of the tissues there.
Right.
It was probably because of something else that's going on. But yeah, going back to what you said, yeah, it's how do you figure out where you need work? It all comes down to those assessments.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting that, even just culturally, some cultures
Yes.
would almost guarantee that everyone in that culture is going into a deep squat at least once a day. Whereas
Absolutely.
ours has pretty much subtracted every opportunity for something like that. Not just in that obvious example, but everywhere else too, where we no longer have the ability to kind of have balance even walking around, it seems like.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. Even here in Japan, in a culture where you spend a lot of time on the floor sitting in seiza, where your legs are tucked underneath you, using a toilet that's a squatter, moving away from that. And so Western style toilets, not a lot of kids sitting in this seiza position. And it's interesting because I teach a lot of children over here in Japan at my gym, and here's a white guy teaching kids how to sit in this position that they should know about because of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see a lot of the kids now as they grow older not having that mobility like they really should.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of this culture that's changing. And so, in the Western world, it's the same, unfortunately. Food, of course, has a big part to do with it, I think. And while technology, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Heck, we're talking right now.
Yeah, it's magic.
It has allowed us to become lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, that's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing if you let it kind of end up ruling your life.
Right. So how do you find a way then to insert those things into your life? The things that we should be doing as humans, the movements that we should be able to do.
Yeah, it's this awareness that we're talking about, and it's also creating good habits. I'm not the kind of guy who tells people that they should be working out all day long.
Yeah.
I'm a father of 2 kids, married. I have my workout, run a business, busy guy. The thing is I understand too that we all have jobs. We need to work. We can't set aside these huge blocks of time for working out. And I don't really think it's necessary. I think it's being smart in your training, looking at not just what you want, but also what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something, unfortunately, that a lot of people don't know. What do you need? And so coming back again to these assessments and looking at that one thing, and then just spending a little bit of time on it. So, for example, flexibility. A lot of times people, I don't have time to stretch, whatever. Well, hey, listen, if you've got a little bit of time to watch TV, then you can stretch while you're watching TV. Not a lot of people want to do this, but it doesn't have to be a chore. Just take 30 seconds to a minute of your day and focus on that one place that you need to work on your flexibility.
Yeah.
And it'll gradually get into this good habit. It's just like brushing your teeth, where, oh, I don't have to stretch. I get to stretch. And if I can do this, it's going to help me with this other stuff. And so if you can kind of change that mentality, I think it helps. It's tough in the beginning. I know it is tough.
Yeah.
But, it's those very small little changes that we make that turn into large wins down the road. And also setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
And having a plan, And so that's, even when we're working out, it's a big thing that I tell people that I train, in our community, our Alpha Posse community, is you've got to set yourself up for a win. You can't just blindly go into something. And so that's why we really want to be there to help and say, hey, listen, what do you really want out of this?
Yeah.
And let's just focus on this one little thing.
Right.
And once we get that, hey, then we can look at the next thing instead of thinking that we want to jump up to here. So what is that first thing that we need to focus on in order to set us up for that win?
Yeah, I've got an example that you'll probably appreciate because it started so small, and it's something that we all know that we should be doing but don't really do that much. And it was a few years ago I started doing just 5 minutes of Qigong in the morning.
Oh, nice.
So basically just, nice, easy stretches. And I started with 5 minutes. I, bumped up the sets, doing a little bit more, but never too much, right? Like just kind of just to get in the habit of doing it. And after doing that for a while, not only do you feel superhuman, but you also, it's funny. It's like you wake up in the morning, and if I don't do it right away, it's like I don't feel alive. I don't feel awake. It's a crazy power up that that a lot of people aren't taking advantage of.
Well, I think, it's such a good point because, like, in the beginning, really, let's be honest, it might suck.
Yeah.
Getting up early and you're kind of like, And here's another thing too, is in the beginning, you might suck, meaning you're not good at it. And so a lot of people can get frustrated because they're not good at something from the very beginning.
Right.
But I think that if we all understand that we're going to be bad at doing this in the beginning, both in the physical part of it and also in the mental aspect of it in order to keep going. But if we can move beyond that and keep working just a little tiny bit and suck more each day in order to get to that point, well, then we'll feel that energy and we'll also feel like, oh, I didn't do this today, and realize how important it is. And I think that's a big thing too. So, we get to do this. I think that this is something also that people forget. We have this body and there are people who physically can't do this. And so, I just like to always tell myself that, I do have the opportunity to do this. And so use it.
I see it kind of as like a gift to my future self,
Right?
when I do stuff like that, or when you eat a vegetable, or when you take one for the team and you just do something, even though you really don't want to do it. It's a gift for your future self. And I think, I get a lot of questions, and I think people in your position do too, coaches or whatever. They're just like, well, you probably do everything perfectly. It must be so easy for you. It's like, no, we hate workout sometimes just as much as anyone else, right? Like we hate doing the right thing every day. You just don't feel like doing it. But the difference between, really succeeding is just taking that dive every day, no matter how you feel, and making a commitment to yourself that it's the right thing that you want to do.
Exactly. Something that I talk about a lot, and I mention this with my trainers, the GMB trainers and whatnot, is something that my judo coach told me, because I competed a lot here in Japan. And I got to tell you, being the only non-Japanese, the white boy on the mat and going every single day and working with the police and having them just tear me up and use me to clean the mats.
Right.
That's what it just felt like every day. There are days where I did not want to go, but my coach said this, and he's like, just step on the mat. Just step on the mat. That's it. And so I like to use this phrase with my trainers and things. It's just show up for the warm-up. Just show up. And that's the toughest thing, because generally if you can show up and actually start to move and start to do your thing, then you're probably going to finish your workout. Yeah. The problem is we've got so many excuses. Oh, my son wants to play, which is a good excuse, by the way, I think. Right. But, we find these excuses. But if you just show up and just start to do it, you'll probably end up finishing it. And that goes for work and everything
Right.
too. I mean, geez,
Right.
oh, I don't want to work on this. Well, just show up and do it. And so I think
Yeah.
with this mindset of just stepping on the mat, it's helped me tremendously for
Yeah.
everything because you bring up a good point. I mean, people might, they look at us and they're like, oh, it's so easy for what you're doing because it's your job. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't say you don't understand, but I mean, because it is our job, it is difficult because there are
Yeah.
days where you don't want to shoot an Instagram video. There are days where you just want to take it easy and like your t-shirt, 83% paleo.
Yeah.
You've got to, sometimes you want that cigar and that scotch. So, you got to be careful. Make sure you step on the mat that day though.
Yeah. It's so true. But it's about that commitment. Why do you think it's so hard for some people to take that leap, right? Because you might give them all the tools, but then you see them a couple years later and they can't get out of their car or whatever. Like what is that gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it?
Well, I think a lot of it is because as individuals, we're going towards ease. We're not looking at something, that's going to be difficult because as humans, we want to go away from this confrontation and things that are going to be difficult. The handstand is a very good example, to be honest, because it's not natural to go upside down.
Yeah.
It's when you're upside down, your body's screaming at you saying, get close to the floor because that's where the safe place is. Get upright. And so you have to fight these natural urges of wanting to get out of this position, and because you're always thinking that you're falling. And so, it's that constant battle. And so what I think though is the most important thing, and a lot of times where people don't succeed, is the fact that they try and jump to a higher level too quickly, or they just bypass everything from the beginning. The big joke that we say, Mike Fitch is one of my very close friends. He has Animal Flow, and we like to joke, we get these emails from people and they're like, I watched one of your videos and I tried it and I can't do it. How come I can't do it? Well, if I could do something like that, that would be pretty amazing. It's looking at the most basic level of something, whether it be an exercise, whether it be learning a language, starting at the beginning and just taking those baby steps. And again, setting yourself up for this win. And so again, if a person tries to jump to the higher level and tries to just jump into a handstand, they're going to come crashing down. It's not going to be a pleasant experience. They're going to lose that confidence. And we're not going to want to do something where we don't feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I've seen so many people have this problem, and that is what we need to look at is, do you have a plan? Do you have a person that is there to help you for when things happen? And are you taking the necessary steps to set yourself up for success?
Yeah.
And so it's a tough one. And I'm not saying that, and this might also be a little weird because a lot of people, especially in the workout world, they're really focused on sets and they're really focused on reps and things like that. I'm actually not. And this is something that we like to get away from, to be honest, because sometimes when you're only focused on the numbers, you lose that awareness. You lose track of really what we're after. And so rather than looking at reps and sets, looking at a time span of performing something, whether it be a certain block of time to work on your handstands or a certain, 30 seconds to perform this particular movement. And instead of focusing on those sets and those reps, focus on the movement quality itself. And to me, that's setting yourself up for success, because then you can be deeper, you can get deeper into that movement and not think that day, if you don't hit those numbers, that you failed.
Yeah.
Instead, right? And so instead you can look at it as, I got on the mat, I worked during this particular time, learned more about my body, and by doing that, you will improve as long as you keep doing that. And so that's really what we're after, like, especially in our very first program that we suggest people start with, elements. It's these 3 movements, and in there you don't see these, oh, we'd like for you to do this 6 times and do 8 sets, No, it's, let's start off with this time. If you really feel comfortable with this time, and you're okay with doing it, we'll extend the period of time just a little bit in order to improve and learn more about what's going on.
Yeah.
Cool thing that we found is it takes that pressure off of people thinking that they have to hit a particular number. They actually do better, and they enjoy the process. And this is, I think, the biggest one, and why a lot of people don't actually make progress is because they get into the mindset of, I got to work out and I got to hit my numbers today.
Right. And then how often do you sacrifice form to do that? Right.
And that's the thing. And, I don't really care if you can do 100 push-ups. I want to know how many of those push-ups you do with really good form, make them quality. So another thing I like to say is, I only care about you doing one repetition of a movement as perfectly as you can, then do another one.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to do it. And so, if you look at weight, if you look at, again, this barbell type working out, the bodybuilding thing, I think that numbers is a good thing. And it's very easy to actually judge how to progress, because how much weight are you pushing? How many sets, how many reps are you doing? But with this body weight exercise that we're after, it's very difficult to judge and figure out how you're making progress. So that's why we take things down and we focus on the quality of the movement and also the ease of the movement. And so I think those two things are very important. And so are you doing very sloppy type movements, or are you doing very smooth, controlled, and things that, I'm not talking about being easy, but I'm saying they're comfortable, so that when you're doing a particular movement, you know that it's ready to move on, that you're ready to move on to the next one.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned the more like weightlifting, bodybuilding type or whatever. I think a lot of people, all they really know about it is kind of the vanity, the superficial stuff about it. Yeah. But I'd love to get your take as a fighter. Have you ever come against like someone who's just muscle bound but slow because of it, or has an obvious weakness that you could exploit?
Yeah, man, this is interesting that you bring this up, because it's actually my very last match in judo. My very last match in judo is where I had my shoulder completely dislocated. Ugh. And tore ligaments, and that's what stopped me. And I had shoulder surgery, and I still have like a little tiny screw in there holding everything up. But anyway, I was competing in the open class, and so in judo they do have these different weight divisions, and so I was at 65 kilos, which is, I don't know, I think that's what, like 154? Is that about right? I'm not really up with it anymore. Anyway, but basically I was a skinny dude, and I lost a lot of weight in order to get into that class. But I really enjoy being in the open weight division, and I had done that for a long time. But this is the first time that I was competing at 65, and I was very fortunate. I happened to win and get up into this bracket. My competitor was 95 kilos, which is a big boy. And I mean, he was like, I'm going to tear your head off kind of dude. And he tore my shoulder off. Yeah. But the thing is he wasn't a good mover. And thanks to that, and it was a flexibility issue that actually allowed me, when my arm was detached, to get him on his back and keep him down. Wow. And because the guy's stronger than me, right? And my arm was messed up at that time, but because of this lack of mobility that he had, I was able to actually win that match. It was my very last match that I had in competition. But that, I mean, for me, that's kind of like the highlight of the thing. I mean, I'm not a great judo guy. I'm going to be honest. Okay. Sure. It just, I just happened to compete a lot over here in Japan, and had that ability to move. Again, I wasn't a big guy at all. I'm still not a big guy, but having that strength, having that flexibility and that control over your body, and also the desire to stick with it. I think that triumphs a lot of the times over just that sheer strength. There's always going to be a bigger and badder guy out there, though. Yeah. And so that's also something that people need to understand. So,
but it comes from a different place, right? That scrappy strength.
Yes, man.
And I think it's something that you guys work on that not many people do.
And that's the thing. That's what we're really after. It's, I don't want to be huge. Well, I know this sounds strange. It's like, well, that's just because you're not huge, dude. That's
Right.
why you're saying it. But I mean, but honestly, no, because I've been bigger.
Yeah.
Right now, I said 65. Right now, my basic weight, right, my weight right now is 74 kilos. I've been at 85 before.
Wow.
That was just too big for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt blah,
Right.
And so this scrappy strength, this being able to just do what I want to do. I want to go do parkour, and if I want to do flips, if I, right now, really getting back into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I love it. And, I want to be able to move better, to enjoy life, to do the stuff that I want to do. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't want to be in a place where I'm so bound. And I'm not saying, again, that this is a bad thing. If that's what you want to do it, man. It's great. If you want to be a bodybuilder and get huge, then get huge, dude. Put your effort into doing that. But with GMB, we're not about that. And if you want to learn barbell type lifting and things like that, we're not the people to come to. And that's why we don't discuss it. It's not that we don't do it. Jarlo and I started GMB together, and he absolutely loves barbell squats, deadlifts, front lifts, front squats are his thing, man. And they're just amazing. And he loves doing it. But the thing is, we don't teach that, though. We know what we're good at, and we focus on doing that.
Right.
So.
Cool. So,
sorry, I'm getting a little excited there.
No, of course. What about this? What do you eat over there in Japan?
What do I eat, man? I tell you what, all I eat is sushi every single day, 3 times a day. I'm just kidding. My wife is Japanese, and she's an amazing cook.
Cool.
And I say cook, but it's tough because when people ask me for nutritional advice and stuff, it's difficult because I come from a place where, well, having been in Japan for over half of my life, I'm so accustomed to the Japanese food that I know what is what and what not. So when I hear people say, oh, you shouldn't eat this particular food or you shouldn't do this, it's difficult for me because I think that it's a personal thing and each person needs to figure out what's good for them. The thing is, though, is I stay away from fried kind of stuff. I'm just not that way. It's Japanese style eating is what we do. And so what do I eat over here? It's like, for example, last night, what did I eat? I had oh goodness, I ate so much food. I eat a lot of food.
Awesome.
That's why I'm just so fat. Just so fat, No, man, but it's just Japanese style food. So, for example, a lot of fish, and the fish that we eat isn't grilled, or well, pardon me, sorry, not it's grilled. It's not fried or anything. It's usually baked. It's grilled. I love seafood. Seafood is probably one of my most favorite kinds of food. So last night, we had a seafood kind of mix, but we eat so many vegetables. And this is what always blows me away. Go to the United States and you order vegetables, and usually if you go to a restaurant, it's like broccoli or a salad or just like that's it, right? And it always blows me away. But in lunch and dinner, those are the only meals I eat. I don't eat breakfast, but lunch and dinner, just vegetables. That's our main thing. And then on top of that, protein.
Yeah.
So, and I mentioned I don't eat breakfast. It's it's not like, oh, I'm fasting and things. Yeah, I am fasting, but the reason why is because I typically do a lot of my upside down work in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. And eating a big breakfast in the morning and then getting upside down is not very productive. So I've actually, I eat the way that I eat because it's good for me.
By the way, let me just interrupt you and say that's the best reason I've ever heard for not eating breakfast.
Right. Everybody's like, no, you need to, not eat breakfast because, it helps with digestion and also, looking at glucose levels and everything. I'm just like, dude, I get upside down and I'm doing handstands and I don't want to. Yeah. So anyway, now I got into this habit a couple years ago when I was really into, I wanted to learn the one arm handstand. And I was doing it pretty early in the morning. And I was like, man, and I was no coffee, hard. I would drink a little bit of water and that was about it. But because I was getting upside down right away. And I just got in the habit and I found it really worked for me. My concentration was higher. So again, I think it depends on each person, what you're after. It's really tough to do for me in the winter in Japan. There's no central heating in Japan. So basically the temperature outside is the same temperature as inside
Yeah.
in the house. So not eating breakfast, you got to put on a couple layers of clothes until lunchtime because you'll be cold all morning.
Totally.
So,
That's so interesting.
yeah.
But you mentioned tons of vegetables, lots of different kinds
Oh man,
of
tell you
vegetables.
what, so many different kinds of vegetables.
Tell us more about that.
Well, like for example, and not just like the kind of vegetables you might be thinking where maybe like squash or broccoli, like I mentioned, or cauliflower. We're talking like burdock root, tubers, a lot of tubers, and a lot of people, oh, that's not a vegetable. Okay, whatever. But and this is horrible because I don't even know how to say a lot of this stuff in English, but I'll just throw it out there. Chinese cabbage, spinach, but there's different kinds of spinach that they have over here, which is great. A lot, just greens, a lot of different kinds of greens. Carrots, but of course the two different kinds of carrots that they have over here, the red carrot and then the typical orange.
Right.
Goodness, what else? A lot of radish, so daikon radish, the big long, big white ones they have.
Yeah.
Other kinds of radishes they have. I love rice. I'll eat. I know that's not a vegetable, but rice is the big thing. I don't like, to be honest, to eat pasta. I'm not a fan of noodles or any of the kind of wheat-based thing. Breads, I also am not really into breads, eating breads. And so my kids will eat bread every once in a while, but it's got to be from this little place, this fresh bakery that we have down the street.
Yeah.
The thing is too, I want people to understand about me is I'm not crazy about my diet. Like, oh, it's got to be this way.
Right.
I used to be that way, but I found that balance is extremely important for me, and being able to adjust things and really kind of enjoy life. That's what I'm kind of about, and making sure that I'm not a food Nazi.
Right.
And, hey, eat what you want if that's what you want to do. But for me, for my performance, being able to do the things that I want to do and I have to do for my job, I really need to be careful about what I eat.
Right.
So try and eat as clean as possible. And it's very easy to do that over here in Japan, especially with my wife, because she's a great cook. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think I love that you shared that, because so many people, I think, if they haven't been to a particular foreign country, they might have the wrong idea about what they actually eat there, right? Like you look at Chinese food or a lot of Japanese food, or you might know a place by its famous fried dish or something else that they're definitely not eating every day. But pretty much everywhere I've gone, that like the less Western influence it has in a lot of ways, the more vegetables people are eating. And the more diversity is in their diet.
That's a very good point. And I found that to be true, when I visited China, Korea, especially Korea. The cool thing, I got to tell you, I love Korea because when you go into a restaurant, they give you these dishes in the very beginning, and it just comes with the meal. I mean, it's like free. You don't pay for this stuff. And there are these local veggies that they prepared. I'm just, it's just great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's the food. And I think this is another thing too, is reaching out and not necessarily just reaching out, but exploring. This is something I also think that's very important that a lot of people don't do, because we get sucked into our certain way of doing things all of the time. And really something that I think that we've lost in the world is being uncomfortable with certain things, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's tough.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that I have lived overseas for so long, I have the opportunity to travel to many countries and teach and do things. I'm really open to anything. And this is the thing with me. I will always try something once in regards to food. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to like it. Doesn't mean that, I'm going to eat the whole thing, but I will try it. And so I think that a lot of people I know that come to Japan, foreigners that I've seen, especially Westerners, are not open to these kind of experiences. And I think they miss out on a lot of things. I think this also is regarding movement and exercise as well, because people will look at something and it'll be like, oh, there's no way that I can do that. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, having that mindset really limits us and creates these barriers. So, yes, there's always a way to do something. There's always a way. It's finding how to do that. And again, starting at the very beginning, letting yourself know that you don't have to do this movement right now. In fact, you shouldn't. It's starting here and figuring out where you are. Food's the same way. I mean, you don't have to eat the whole thing. Just
Yeah.
try a little nibble of it. It'll be okay. So
I
yeah.
went to a Japanese place in New York once that flew in all of their seafood or whatever.
Oh,
And,
oh.
and I just ordered, I'm just like, I want some like real Japanese food. I don't know what that is, but please just, I would love to be entertained to try some weird stuff. And I've never seen so many fish parts of various kinds in my life. But one of the things that really shocked me was how many types of vegetables, how many types of fish, how many things I'd never seen before were all in the same place.
That's what I really love. See, in Japan, it's about the presentation, and oh man, there's just so much, and it's just so related to everything that I love to do, and I can just always bring it back to GMB. Sorry, but it's not just about that one thing, putting it on your plate and eating it. It's about the whole experience, and finding things that match, and making sure that when you're eating this particular food, it's seasonal. It's not just something you can get all the time. It's now. It's because we're in this season that you're able to eat this, and finding things that go well with this other particular food, this fish, and even the drink, whatever you're drinking, does it match with what you're doing, how you eat?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but with sushi, you always have the ginger, the pink, that's to clear your palate. That's one reason, is to clear your palate for the next piece of sushi that you're going to eat. It also has to do with digestion, but it's how you eat, and finding that balance and everything. I think that's just so important. And a lot of times, the way we eat recently is just like slop it on the plate, boom, there you go. And taking pride in what you do too is another huge thing here in Japan, which I absolutely love. And I think that we need to take more pride in what we do as individuals, in our movement, in the way that we interact with other people, and the way that we look at the world. I think if we could do more of that, I mean, we're not only going to be a better person, but people around us are going to enjoy being with us more. Therefore, hopefully it'll kind of spread out, and we'll all sit around singing Kumbaya, and the world will be perfect.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it. Well, Ryan, I can't believe it, but we're coming up on time. Before we go, can you tell folks what you're working on now and where to find you?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, always working on so much stuff. What I'm working on right now is just trying to spread the GMB love, introduce more people into GMB, and let people know that you can have fun, do these skills, and get better with your body. It's not that tough. You can find us at gmb.io. By the way, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube with our hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of free videos at GMB Fitness. Send us an email. We pride ourselves on answering every single email that comes through.
Nice.
Thank you so much for having me on here, man. Really looking.
Thank you so much for coming on. I think people will really enjoy this. And if you're listening or watching this right now, definitely check out the videos on the YouTube channel, because you guys are monkeys. It's very inspiring, I got to say.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
All right. Cheers, man.
Before you go, don't forget to grab your listener discount on our 30-day fat loss plan. In this plan, we share 30 days of mouth-watering wild diet meal plans that are designed to help you drop fat with real food. The meal plans are paleo-friendly, easy to make, and literally the meals that my wife Allison and I eat just about every day and night to stay lean, fit, and happy. In the program, you'll get the most effective method of meal and nutrient timing to best stimulate fat loss and muscle recovery, the truth about how much protein you really need for your body type, 30 days of specific healthy, fat-burning meal plans as a done-for-you nutrition strategy, and tons more. If you check it out today, you'll even get a listener discount. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com/30 days. That's the number 30, DAYS. Once again, that's fatburningman.com/30 days. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Fat Burning Man. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the podcast app, or wherever else you might be listening to or watching this show. Got a second? Please leave me a quick review on iTunes. I always love hearing from you, and if you think someone else might like and benefit from this free show, please take a second to share it with a friend or with a family member. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at FatBurnMan and Facebook by typing in Abel James or Fat Burning Man. Drop me a line anytime. Did you know that I've recorded over 150 episodes of Fat Burning Man, winning 4 awards in independent media and hitting #1 in more than 8 countries? And here's some more good news. You can download and listen to every single episode for free. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com. I'll give you a second to type it in, fatburningman.com. And you'll get all the show notes in video and audio versions for all the past episodes of Fat Burning Man. Better yet, enter your best email at fatburningman.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll even send you a quick start guide to start burning fat right now and a few of our ridiculously tasty recipes as a special thanks for signing up. Once again, just go to fatburningman.com right now, enter your best email to get your free fat burning download straight to your inbox, and make sure that you never miss a show again. This is Abel James signing off. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week.
People like me say cancer is a man-made disease.
Yeah.
Right? You've heard that expression. It's a man-made disease.
Sure.
And when people say it's a man-made disease, what they're talking about is it's exploded as a result of our choices and our diet and lifestyle.